So we're spending, so there's myself, Simon Worthington, as Paul introduced, and Jitka. I'm going to give you a quick an overview of the publication that we're producing, this Research Librarians Guide to Citizen Science. And then Jitka's going to put some meat on the bones in terms of Jitka Hensen has taken on the role as a section editor in the area of skilling, and she'll put some meat on the bones of showing you kind of exactly how that becomes into something real. So like the previous presentation, this is an output of the working group. This is our strategic direction 6. And so the work that the project that is in mind is to produce a guide, as it quite literally says here, for research librarians. Now, this is intended to be a set of signposts for those librarians, an introduction. So we're trying to keep it really quite short. And as you can see here, our version of short is 100 pages or so. And as was mentioned in one of our respondents from the breakout sessions, the SciStarter Librarians and Community Guide to Citizen Science is from ASU, and SciStarter is very much an inspiration, and we're following in their footsteps and working with them, which is a great thing. And you can, as you can see here, you can find some information on the guide. Now we're very much working in a context of building on what has already taken place in LIBER and the kind of directions and understanding that has been there in LIBER. So the guide's organized into these 4 sections, which were put out in this LIBER Open Science Roadmap at the end of 2018. And so, as you can see, looking at research infrastructures, good scholarly practice, how these things move over to, how do we interpret these things for the citizen science context? Strategic elements in terms of like, how are you going to run a program? How are you going to organize it? What's needed? And then, a part about skilling and training and what kind of programs can be brought on there. So these are our 4 sections, and there's quite a lot which you can probably go in more depth in the breakout rooms around how editorially we're organizing it. But essentially each section has a section editor. So we have Kirsty Wallace, who is head of research liaison at UCL. Paul Iris, our wonderful chair, also from UCL. And Bastian Greshak Tavares, who is working in the area of, I suppose, kind of wearable data, personal tracking data, and is based at the Center for Research and Interdisciplinarity in Paris. And then Jitka Stillund Hensen. So yeah, working on, we have plenty to sit on top of. So we're looking at these kind of components of, how can we help that? Like, say we've got a librarian, someone in a research library who's either tasked or to put in place something like a bespoke or a citizen science project. And as you can see, we're covering these 4 areas, but it's also to think about what is the role of the research library, and how maybe is it different from a public library, and what are the things it does? So I kind of put down kind of three ideas that I've been thinking about, which I think maybe we share in different ways. You can discuss, but it's about seeing citizen science as a place in which a bridge is created, and how scientific values are communicated. But also the kind of changing world around us, in that people have so many tools available to them, data tools and data sets, and other things that are kind of coming from open science. So what is happening out with the public? So I just kind of, I put in a few examples of things that might give a context to this. So let me just mention one of them, the project Atmodat, which is coming from my library, the TIB, which is looking at climate models which are used on a local context. So these are things that might, things that a library are producing, but also, that can be used in the citizen science context. And also just looking at issues around knowledge equity, knowledge justice, and how do we engage in these types of issues. So we kind of see, I see that the areas of activity of the library, and then there are these things going on out in the world, and how do we interface between those? So these are questions very much. And so just let me arrange my viewing track here, and I will kind of end on my next slide. Yeah, and the publication itself, like what are we making? It's very much seeing it in the context of it's a guide, but as a kind of playing a role in this kind of new family of textbooks which are around, and also how can we put something out which will have a life after our after we make this publication. So our roadmap is that we release the publication in sections, and these we're now going into our first kind of production round, but by the end of 21 we will be finished on that. The content is produced multi-format, and we look to see how to make it sure its reuse is there, and and as was mentioned a few times around SciStarter's Guide to Citizen Science, we're partnering with organizations like SciStarter and have other cooperations. So very much want to pull things in from the community. And yeah, we're learning as we do this. We're learning how can we make these types of open publications, maybe what you might call kind of open science publications. So yeah, this is I suppose, yeah, this shows you the roadmap of where we're going. What I would like to do now is hand over to my co-presenter, Jitka, and she will take you over, her work on the section around skilling and training.
Yes.
And I think we could take questions after the two of us, or maybe move into the breakout session.
So Simon, did I just take over control of the screen?
Yeah, I think that seems
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Good.
Brilliant.
So my
Thank
name
you.
is that's good. Thank you, Simon. So my name is Jitka, and I'm working in my daily life at the University Library of the Technical University of Copenhagen with Denmark. Sorry, with research data management. So I was very interested in citizen science by some different projects I was engaged in, and becoming a member of the LIBER group. They gave me an opportunity to focus on some very practical aspects of guiding library staff. So now I'm just going to go quite shortly through what we have thought of including in one of the sections, the last section about citizen science skilling. And of course, the focus is about for the library staff, but I'm sure that others can take advantage of what we intend to put in this guide. So we have 4 ideas for now, but of course we are open for more. One, communication, the thing about project and research data management, and then also scientific literacy. So communication, if you want to make a communication plan, of course, everything starts with the research question that the researcher or the project manager is posing. You have to design the project based on this research question. And then, of course, the very important and central question is, what are the data you will get out of? And I kind of put the data here in the middle because the data is the data that the citizen is going to produce and perhaps also use, hopefully, is what you are going to communicate about. So, and also for other stakeholders, the data will be very interesting, very relevant, because you need to attract other stakeholders. It could be funders, it could be policymakers, other communities. So you have to focus your communication not only about the data, of course, but also aimed at the users and the stakeholders, other stakeholders. So what media, what tools are you going to communicate with your interest groups with? So one thing is making a communication plan. The next one is more about project management. So citizen science projects, they are often built on a community. So the project manager needs to systematically think about how to recruit people to this community. So of course you have to share and visualize the data again here to the volunteers or to the citizens in order to keep them motivated. So of course this is very much linked again to the communication plan, how you keep a dialogue with the community, how you recruit them, and how you keep motivating the community. Of course, there's a very practical aspects about data collection itself. It starts with finding the resources for the whole project, and it ends probably with disseminating the results. And all this you have to oversee in your project management. Now, some very practical aspects, it could be reflected in your research data management. And now the knowledge and guidance on research data management is already embedded in many research libraries. So therefore, this knowledge can, I think, be extended to citizen science projects as well. And in this section, we'll try to highlight some RDM aspects that in particular are relevant to citizen science data. Now, I would like to focus or structure this part of the guide with the FAIR principles, or according to the around the FAIR principles, because producing FAIR data has a lot of practicalities to consider. So, findable is considering how you will share the data, which platforms or repositories are you going to use, and you should also consider the long-term preservation of the data. Something very important to consider in citizen science is how the volunteers get access to the data they deliver and what rights they have. So what can they expect to get access to, and how are the data handled according to ethical and legal obligations? The research librarian could help identify institutional policies and international standards. For example, for metadata. And this could make citizen science data more interoperable and increase the possibility to reuse the data. Now, reuse is not only about documenting and assigning a license, it's how you credit your, how and if you want to credit your citizen science, it's very worth considering. And it's not always fitting into the conventional ways of assigning authorships and publications. So I hope you can see that research data management is interlinked with the communication and project management planning, but we also want to highlight that data management is a very useful tool to get an overview of the costs and resources required for handling and sharing data. Citizen science data can sometimes be used by different stakeholders, such as the public and policymakers, or other scientists, and the DMP can assist the researcher in producing data of appropriate quality for this. So producing quality data can actually be a great motivation, I think, and empowerment of the volunteer to participate in your project. Okay, for the last part of this section of skilling, it's about scientific literacy, and this is about providing tools to support scientific literacy. So this can be incorporated in projects working with collecting or using citizen science data So for example, by students or teachers in for example, high schools. And this is about supporting the understanding of science and its approach. Scientific literacy is about developing your own ideas to be tested in experiments, and of course, finally, to interpret and to be able to interpret and evaluate scientific data. So, so that was it. I hope you have an idea now about the content of this section, and we are very much looking forward for suggestions and ideas, not only for this section but for the whole guide. Yeah, that's it.